Storm with Sponic, bring you guys another gameplay commentary. This is New World, and I'm starting a new series breaking down weapons, armor traits, jewelry traits that I find to be effective for me at least, especially when it comes to my playstyle. I play light for now, light equip load, and so I go high damage, very squishy, so high damage, high reward, high risk, etc. But in all of that, there's this thing called randomness where I really want to remove those types of things. And so, if any player is attempting to get better at this game the same way I am, you can use this video if you happen to watch it as a frame of reference, and maybe that can help you out. So the first one is the spear. I'm currently playing hatchet and spear, and so let's go into the spear tree. When players think of spear, they think of, and I've heard this before, CC bots, players who just constantly CC you, and players are pissed off at that. But I think when I first started playing spear, I gravitated towards, yes, the CC skills, the skills that had a CC attached to them, like sweep, which now I think it's second to last worst skill in the zoner, in the spear tree. Vault kick, also gravitated to this, which I don't use anymore. I don't use this anymore. I've never really used this. And these two skills have artifacts that benefit from them, right? So if you used Venom, right, and Venom's artifact buff essentially is, right, heavy melee attacks with either weapon cause poison, dealing 15% weapon damage for 5 seconds, right? Most players will attach bleeding sweep when they upgrade their artifact, upgrade Venom, and coup de grace essentially counts as a heavy attack. So if you go here, this tenacious sweep, which gives you grit, and then this counts as a heavy attack, right? So reactivate this ability or use basic attacks during sweep to follow up with a heavy stab that deals 150% breast damage, right? Weapon damage. And this counts as a heavy attack, so that gives you a 15% increase in damage, and it's also like a poison dot. So that artifact buffs this skill. Then you have Javelin. You don't have to have the knockdown version of it. If you have Scorpion Sting. So Javelin now does 100% weapon damage and pulls target towards you, right? And this knocks the player down. So most players, when they think of spear, they think of a weapon that can CC you, right? And if you're new to the game and you're new to spear, this is the thing that you would think about. But to me, again, I play light, and this game does have the neutral game, and I'll show some clips on what it is that I'm talking about. This game does have neutral. It's very hard to play neutral when you're fighting against ranged players, but you can still do it, and it's a lot easier. Somewhat. It depends on the player, and it depends on the playstyle to play neutral when you're fighting someone who's melee. Okay, so let's keep those things in mind. And to me, at first glance, that's the first thing I thought. Like, hey, you can CC a player, hit a player with crowd control, and then you can damage them, right? If you can stop them from moving, you can get them still, you can have them stay still, then you've won the battle, right? That's what I thought at first, and the more and more I played this game and I PvP'd more, I started to realize that the spear tree like these skills, sweep and vault kick, and even javelin, right? Javelin requires you to stand still, and that's not something you want to do, especially if you're in light equip. Sweep has a very slow animation. It can easily be dodged, and it locks you in place. Vault kick, you have to target this. Sweep is a bit more forgiving, where it's conal, from my understanding. So if a player is behind you and you target, you move your cursor, you could potentially get the player. And most players roll dodge into this, which is a negative. And this is something I used to do, but I've since not done that because I don't use sweep anymore. Right? So to me, I use the spear differently, right? The spear for me is more in terms of um, managing this distance, especially if you're dealing with melee players, pressuring players with particular skills that come out really quickly, and I'll talk about these skills that I use and the reason behind them, and then finding some way to have a positive, especially when you're playing neutral, finding some way to have a positive um, um, interaction. Right, in this game, you have instances where melee players come together and they uh, they clash. I cannot remember the word that I want to use, the name of it, right? But they clash, right? And um, when these skills uh, hit each other, there's this stalemate, and depending on what skill you apply, you could either come out positively or you can come out negatively, right? And so this is a good way of playing neutral. And so I'll go to these skills because I'm not a fan of skills that the cast has a cast time or the animation is very long and they can easily be dodged, especially if the player is running shirking heals and they have Ankh. You're giving them resources back. All right. So what I tend to use, and I'll get to me, which I think is arguably the best skill in the spare lineup. Most players don't know this, but I think this skill is amazing. So let's start off with skewer. Right. This skill is a gap closer. You have to have a gap closer in this game. If you don't, then you are at a severe disadvantage because this game requires you to target everyone. I know there's auto lock, and I'll talk about that in another video, but for the most part, this game requires you to, get up close and personal, and it's very difficult to do that. So you want to have gap closers. Even though this skill locks you into place, I think it's better than sweep, and it's better than vault kick, right? And it applies a bleed. It extends the bleed when it applies it. It also gives you a benefit where, um, uh, depending on like Skewer deals 20% increase base damage against targets that have full health. So you want to be engaging with this skill, right? It adds a bleed, right? And then you get 20% weapon damage every 1 second for 10 seconds. Then it's increased if you open up and the person has full health, right? Then it gives you an empower if you get a crit, and then it extends the duration of the heat of the bleed by 15 seconds, right? And then you get another increase in damage if you use the I guess this is the ultimate. You deal 10% increased base damage for each debuff on your target. Okay, so keep that in mind, right? And this is an opener, and it's also a chase down. So if you really wanted to chase a player down, this could also be the beginning to your combo. Now, when you're playing neutral, right, you are essentially just it's a waiting game to see who's going to do what, right? And what you want to do is to come out positive, right? There's some skills that allow you to do that in whatever weapon that you use, but we're looking at spear right now. And so you start off with skewer, right? And we just mentioned some of the benefits of it. This is a relatively fast skill, right? Then you get to perforate. Perforate is a great skill, and I remember the term. Like when you're trading damage, that's what it is. When you are trading damage, you want fast skills that put you at a positive, right? And you also want to kind of you have a long range. I mean, um, a spear has a longer reach than pretty much all weapons except for the range weapons, right? From my understanding, right? So you have a weapon where you're fighting a melee player, right? You can zone the player out, right? And you have ways to do this with perforate. And perforate to me is an excellent skill because it comes out really quickly. Execute 3 quick piercing strikes that each deal 80% thrust damage, weapon damage, and inflicts the target with 5% rend for 10 seconds. And it stacks 3, so that's 15, right? It reduces the player's armor. So you're reducing the armor by 15%. And this skill can somewhat be cancelled. Now, if the player's um, health is above 50%, it's increased to 10% per strike. So that's 30% that um, you're reducing the player's armor, right? You're reducing the player's armor by 30%, and then it also inflicts each attack inflicts a stack of weaken to the target, reducing target's outgoing damage by 10%. This stacks. So you're reducing the player's armor and the damage they do by 30% if they're above 50% health. Now, that is amazing. This is a skill that puts you at a positive, right? So you're interacting with a player, they're all trying to hit you with damage, and then you guys clash, and then this is what happens. So first you start off with skewer, and this is leading into a combo, and if the player's health is above um, is at full health, so this should be one of your engage. It also gives you a chance to get empowered, and then when you hit players with perforate, and this is a very fast casting skill, right? It's very fast, and it has range. So, you know, you might be in a situation where you're fighting a player that has a rapier, and you hit them with perforate, and you can hit them, but they cannot hit you. So not only, and if their health is above 50%, you get a benefit because you're reducing the armor and weakening their damage by 30%, right? And you're trading, so you will take damage, but you are trading here, right? So keep that in mind. You're trading, and then the creme de la creme of skills. I think this is arguably the best skill in the spare setup. It's an amazing skill. I don't know why more players don't use this skill. This skill is amazing. It does everything that you want a skill to do when you are trading, and it's a net positive. And I'll show some videos for it. This is a net positive. This is why I use this setup, because it's quick, it's fast, it touches everything, and I don't need to CC players, right? And if a player is using vault kick and sweep, then it's a positive for me because I run 5 shirking heals along with Ankh. So I get an automatic 25 K health, 2500 health back from them. the moment they use that skill, I'm always looking to roll dodge it. So, and it's easy to dodge, vault kick, and sweep. You can bait it out. Players never see what it is that you're doing to them until it's too late, right? So if you land this skill, then you land perforate, you are at a positive, right? You guys are trading, you are at a positive, right? I don't think any other skill can outtrade you in terms of damage if it's melee, right? And it's quick. You added a bleed. If you get a crit, you're empowered. Then you now hit them with 3, and these can be dodged, and you can dodge out of it after the second attack. You hit them with perforate, and now they're weakened 30%. They have rend in them where their armor is reduced, so less damage, 30% less damage, 30% less armor, right? This works well against heavy armor players as well, so that's a great thing. And then you get to this, and there's also a perk, leeching sweep, that makes this even better. I haven't tested leeching sweep, but let's talk about Cyclone. This skill is amazing. Let's talk about this skill. First of all, when you're clashing, right? When you guys are trading skills, this skill is the creme de la creme of trading. I'll tell you why. One, I'll read what the skill says. Perform a spin attack that deals 160% weapon damage to target within a 3 meter radius. It's an area of effect ability, right? You don't have to target. It and applies a 30% slow for 3 seconds. This ability has grit, so that means you cannot be staggered, right? It has grit, right? So you can trade on this. Then it says here, restores 25% stamina per target hit. So you could potentially get 50 stam back. Okay, so if you're blocking and someone hits you and you counter with off of the block, you counter, you'll see in the video that I'm getting ready to show, you counter with Cyclone, you get 50 stam back. It's not a loss. It's a win-win. Then it pushes you, right? It pushes you, and so it pushes the target back. So if you want to get a bit of a breather, you want to, if too many players on top of you, you want to do this does a pushback, right? And so this is amazing because the spare tree has ways to regen your stam, right? They have all of these things to regen. Your next dodge consumes 20% less stamina for 2 seconds after a successful hit. You gain stam back, area of effect. You've hit the player. You also get this. Stamina regen rate is increased by 30% when your stamina is below 50%, right? So all of these things really play well. And let me pull up some videos that I have here, and we'll go through them. Let me pull up. Reproductive cancer is hereditary. Let me pull up a few, and so I can show you guys what I mean by this. This guy wants to do it right now. So, all right, let's pull this video up here, and let's show you what I mean by this. All right, so I'm getting ready to fight. This is a very solid player. I have to fight this guy all the time, and so I'll show you guys what I mean by like how these engagements work and how you can come off as a positive, right? Remember what I mentioned with Skewer, Perforate, and Cyclone, and how like they function. And so let's look at the clip, and then once we're done looking at the clip, I'll break it down afterwards. Okay, so let's go. I'm the real demon here. All right, so that's the clip there, right? So what I will do, I'll slow this clip down so we can see exactly what's going on. All right, let me slow this down by 50%. So you'll notice that, look at my stam once this video starts. This guy has sword and shield. And so what I'm trying to do is block his initial charge, right? Sword and shield has one of the best CC combinations that just, it's not slow, it's really fast, and the animation is very fast. It's not like vault kick and sweep. It's completely different. So I'm attempting to block like this initial thing, and then once you can block that, then it's positive for you in terms of when you guys trade. So let's take a look at this. So I'm looking to block this, right? He's trying to bait it out. I blocked it, and you notice that my stam, let's go back here. My stam, let me make this speed a little bit slower. Take a look at my stam, because I take damage to my stam when I block, and look what Cyclone does. Cyclone gives me back 25 stam, so I have a reason to roll dodge, right? And I'm fine. Here I'm attempting to use perforate. He backs off. We're playing neutral now. This is the neutral game. I am going to try to come in, right? He goes for the shield rush. I forgot the name of the skill. I haven't played sword and shield, right? So I pop berserk so he can't CC, and then I swap off. He's trying to bait and block out. He blocks my skewer, right? I engage. He blocks it. I roll dodge with him, and now I'm going to perforate. This is a positive for me, right? Look at where we are. I'm going to perforate, and then I'm going to use Cyclone. Right here, I'm at a net positive, right? If you take a look, I've weakened him. He blocked the skewer, which is fine. Things happen. He blocks it. Roll dodges, so I try to catch him, and now we're trading. He's trading with his skills. I think that's upheaval. And I'm hitting him with perforate. Remember, his health is above 50%. I'm now going to weaken and rend him. So 30% less damage, 30% less armor. I'm at a positive here. Regardless of the interactions, I'm at a positive. I have better armor than he does prior to even starting. He has sword and shield. I'm running featherweight. I have 200 more armor rating than he does. I mean, it might stand for something, but that's how it is. So this interaction, us trading, I come off positive. This is not random. This is all done by design. I perforate. Now I roll dodge, and I get Cyclone. Cyclone now is an area of effect ability. You get to do a bunch of stuff, right? I hit him with the Cyclone. I'm at a positive here, right? I'm at 9,000 health, right? I'm over 50%. His health is a certain way. It's less than mine, so I'm a net positive here. So now it's to decide what we're going to do. I don't want to use skills to proc his to proc his shirking heals. So I'm very, I'm very careful, right? And you want to use skills that are very quick. Uh, and so he's dead here, right? So that is one situation. Let's go to another one. This is a heavy armor player. Let's go to that player, and I'll show you guys what I mean by this. Let's play this clip. This guy is in heavy here. Let's just put the speed back, and we'll just play it so you guys can see. All right. All right, so I'll just go back to the last part here. Just to show like my engagements, that is the setup that I'm looking for. I'm looking to jump in with Skewer, perforate into Cyclone, right? And you'll see like a few of the engagements that we've had. A lot of his skills have like a long animation, so I can easily dodge them. He has a lot of. I'm in light. He's in heavy, and he still does a lot of damage. Um, so you'll see that I'm still using Perforate here to at least lower his damage and his armor so I can do more damage towards him. And you'll see here this trade. Let me in, because I want to remove all like randomness from it. We're scrambling here, but I have things up. Now I'm going to perforate. Right, he dodges one of them, and then I automatically get a dodge roll because of Cyclone, and I dodged his, because that skill has a long wind up, and we're trading here. So I knew we were getting ready to trade. My health is, he's heavy, so I have to be careful. So I want to hit this guy with Perforate. He's already, because of Sin, he already has slow on him, and his heals are already done. So he's already been hit with Perforate, and I'm just, now we're getting ready to trade. Even though his health is lower than mine, he's heavy, so I have to be very careful. Hit him with the Perforate. He dodges the third one. Now we're trading here. He cannot CC me, and he's going for this skill. I dodged it. And like I said, most of these skills are so easy to dodge that it becomes an issue. And the great thing about, like I mentioned before, players will find ways to dodge your skills. So you'll see here, he uses a skill, and I'm waiting. I activate Perforate, and I know a lot of his skills are just slow startups. And so if he lands, now I'm going into, if he lands something, now I dodge roll it, and I get, this is a big heal, massive heal from shirking heals, right? So my shirking heal is 2445, and then the additional heal is from uh, Healing Breeze, right? So hopefully this was helpful. This is just a way to show, like, just to remove a bit of randomness from places, and hopefully, uh, this will be helpful to you. So this is just a breakdown of the spare, and more to come. Anyway, I'm out.